This is Jeff Carroll Sci-fi Express Lane. I'm gonna try to do my 10 minutes walking as opposed to being in the car. This is Express Lane on the walking path because school's not in yet, and I'm not back to driving to work. No work in the summer. The summer camps is over, so it is what it is. And plus, I got to get this health together. So anyway, Sci-Fi Express Lane. My topic is racism, right? How do you identify racism when it comes to a situation like Nolan, the kid that was found dead, and there's so much controversy around him. So we got that coon, former police officer who out here talking about, Benjamin Crump and Reverend Sharpton have made these things a racial situation when, it's not racial. You can't, why would you bring race, blah, blah, blah. And we know that's stupid, but not too many of us know how to respond to that. And also to me as a writer, and I'm going to just try to bring writing into this, because writing is why I do this little podcast or video blog, but it's also why I think about things a little different, because now I'm thinking about society. Now I'm thinking about constructing a world, and when you're building a world, everything in the world is in your world. So, do you have racism in your world? And if so, what is racism? So now, as a writer, as a black writer, I've had to deal with how do I interpret racism? How do I define racism? How do I find it for my world? How do I find it for the world? And, I've been like my former client, Godfrey. I do show respect to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She's our foremost thinker or researcher on racism. Get the ISIS papers. She wrote a couple of little pamphlets before the ISIS papers that I have. And, I used to represent her. She gave me the honor of even representing her, and having her, driving her to shows. I drove her one time 2 hours up to Ramapo College, and then we had her in the car with us for 4 hours, me and my man, Mark. Shout out to Mark. But so let me go into it. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Shout out to Dr. Joy Leary, Professor James Small. Those are other people who break down racism, and even Sister Soldier, she had a real good element that she brought to the racism understanding. But we're in a confused world. So how do I define racism is based on what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing said. She said racism is the fear of white genetic survival, which to me also breaks down to the fear of black people. And because of that, there's nobody else that's scared of white people like black people. Nobody else gets scared of black people like white people, because within our DNA, we have the ability to prevent any more white people from coming just by jungle fever. The moment we have jungle fever, that's the end of the white lineage, because our genes are genetically dominant. Now that ain't nothing to do with, that's no conspiracy theory, that's straight out how it is. So because of that, the fear that J.D. Vance, MAGA, white replacement disorder, designer babies, all those things that you see coming out are a byproduct of that. Now, do we get into, so that's the reasons why, right? How does it manifest itself a little different? Sure, there's a little jealousy to the physical attributes that black people demonstrate in sports, and just in achievement in general, you know what I'm saying? Because now that we got integration and we go into schools with them, we can beat them at the same school. It's not Howard versus Harvard anymore. We got black people coming out of Harvard and beating them right there in Harvard. So, that's different. We able to compete with them directly. It ain't FAMU going up against Ohio State. We on Ohio State now. Then it took the whole FAMU team. So for me, that becomes the envy and the jealousy part. Now, we know MAGA and races are not the brightest people in there, and part of their ignorance is displayed in their understanding of racism. Some of them are racism groupies, and those are probably the Ku Klux Klan, those are your rednecks, and then you have the smart people, or probably the more educated people. I wouldn't say they're smart, because racism is a sign of stupidity, or ignorance, right? But you have the more academic people who are now your geneticists. There's the ones that come up with, like Elon Musk, these people that get severely fearful of it. There's the ones that, like the Rothschilds and the other ones that rig the educational system to make sure that it doesn't diminish the white achievement. You know what I'm saying? So those are the educated ones. Those are the ones that are corporate. Those are the ones that instill the redlining. Those are the ones that prevent the loans. Those are the ones that stood against the healthcare system. Those are the ones that were behind Planned Parenthood. Those are the ones that, toxify our drinking water. Those are the ones that say that ketchup is a vegetable. You know what I'm saying? So those are the different ones than the rednecks. So now, going back to now what racism is, right? Racism is, like I said, Dr. Francis Chris Wilson, the fear of white genetic survival. It's not cultural pride. It's not just bias. It's not just discrimination. It's all of those things for a different reason. You can be Cuban and feel that Cubans are the best culture on the planet, and nobody else is good as Cubans. And you can hate other cultures. But is it racism? No, because you don't have a fear of black people replacing you. You don't have a fear of genetic survival. Because of that, you don't do things that are unsensical, you don't poison the food. You don't do systematic educational problems. You don't lie about history. You don't create historical things because of your fear of black superiority. You're not challenged by them. Actually, with Cubans having such a strong cultural pride, that makes them a better competitor, because they don't have an inferiority complex. They're not jealous of you. Now, maybe some of the conquering Cubans that came from Spain that lived in Cuba that Fidel kicked out, maybe they may have that, but even the other Cubans, they're black. They don't even have a problem with black people because they black. Fidel made Cuba a sanctuary for black revolutionaries and black people wanting to escape the discrimination of America. So when you look at all of the things, discrimination, all of those other things, that hatred, those are all real things. What racism comes in is racism is the reason why those other things are done. When you chalk it down, they don't have another problem. Their primary problem goes back to fear of genetic. So when they used to lynch people, right? They didn't kill people. They didn't just terrorize them. They did portions of their body. They took out their reproductive organs. Why? Why would Cubans wouldn't do that? Why are they frustrated with our ability to reproduce? Right? Because they're fearful of us and our ability to annihilate them. Now, would we annihilate them? No, because if they stayed up in Russia and Germany, ain't nobody going up there. But they want to live down here in the sun where the rest of the humans live, and they don't want to share. And so, and we're very attractive. We created all the popular music and cultural trends on the planet. Every music, from country to rock and roll to grunge music, not even talking about hip hop, jazz, and R&B. We created that, and then our Spanish manifestations created all the Spanish music: merengue, salsa, reggaeton, reggae, compa, samba, all of that. It's all African people. We created all that, and music is what makes you cool. You have a rhythm. You understand? So if you ever talk to people that when the word cool started being popular, cool is a jazz word, and that comes back to the jazz culture. You hip, man. You cat daddy. All of that is jazz. So I'm gonna just close it out because I feel like I'm wandering, and I'll tell you about why I may feel that way. But what makes racism so hard in this Nolan case is it is the reason why people did what they did. It's the reason why you're jealous. The reason why you're violent. It's the reason why you discriminate. It's the reason why you bias. It's the reason why you culturally appropriate. Okay, it's very hard to prove that because unless somebody says, "Hey, you're the N-word," you'll never know that they have that weakness because they can legitimately be jealous of you without being racist. But when you see people just co-sign stuff just because, there you have it. So I don't know. I mean, part of this is my answers and responses are better when people are questioning me. So I'm just going to leave it like here. Like, subscribe, share, comment. My super black story is probably the one that I'm dealing most directly with racism, but I do have it in my Baba comic. Baba versus the White Hoods. He's battling, and in the longer story, he's battling eugenics. And eugenics is the highest, most visible display of racism, the ugliest form of it. If you don't know what eugenics is, please Google it. All right, I could do a whole thing on what eugenics are. So anyway, this is me, Jeff Carroll, sci-fi writer. I'm a former civil rights activist. I planned over 36 marches with Reverend Sharpton. I'm the one that called him to his first out-of-state case, which was the Philip Pennell case in 1990 in Teaneck, New Jersey. I invited him to my graduation party to be a speaker. Him and Dr. Leonard Jeffries, were the speakers at my graduation party. And the end of April, I think it was, or May, whenever my mother and them put the party together, and from there he was invited to Teaneck, and then he met the Pennell family, and he started working with them, and that was his first case out of state. And I marched on that case and other cases for about 6 or 7 years. So yeah, you can check my history. I know what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to these cases. I was 23, and I did it through my whole 20s, so I was about 30. So anyway, that's it. Thank you very much. Jeff Carroll, Sci-Fi Expressway, out.